All right, folks, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real music and doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and just like me. And today, rather than me just blabbing, which is kind of the normal thing I do, I've got a special guest, and I love to have other people because I can just throw it over to them and they can do the talking. I can just give them a question and they can sit there and answer it, and I can sit here and drink my coffee, which again, I'm on like my fourth cup already. Vanessa Kersting is with us today. Vanessa comes to us all the way from beautiful Kentucky. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Kentucky today. Yep.
What are you doing there? Is this where you live now?
Well, actually, I've got a couple of down days from a tour that I'm doing. So a friend has a place out here, so very graciously offered it for me to come and stay for a few days.
Now, people might notice that you have a little bit of an accent, and I love Australia. It's just the Australians, they write these pop songs that just like super catchy. I mean, I go back to I'm old. Okay. So, full disclosures, I'm rather old. So,
Me
midnight
too.
I bet you I'm way older than you, but anyway, midnight oil. There's all kinds of music. You think of like Men at Work and stuff like that, but there's so much great Australian music. Did you listen to that growing up? All of that stuff. Did that infuse itself into what you do?
Yeah, so we often would listen to Australian artists. So Midnight Oil, the lead singer of that band, ran in politics, so that kind of got a little bit more popularity and awareness for the band in the 2000s. But lots of Australian artists I've listened to growing up and even today, and yeah, they do influence you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, when I first listened to you, and you've been recording now, I think since, and correct me because I need to be corrected a lot. 2007-ish is when you first broke onto the scene musically.
Yeah, so that was 2007 was when I released my fourth CD, I
Okay.
think. So 2000, 2001, 2002 is kind of when started recording and putting out music.
Wow. Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
guess I only got the Spotify version of your catalog. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but
So
so you've been at this for over 20 years, so you are kind of old. No, I'm just
there
kidding.
you go.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, that's
I
great.
was a DJ in the 1980s, all right, to give you a little perspective. So,
Fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
played
cool.
In Excess and Men at Work, and I mean,
There's some
just
good bands,
yeah,
right?
some great stuff. But you're a Christian music artist, and
Yeah.
according to your bio here, you've had a number of songs get into the top 100. I'm thinking this TCM thing is an Australian thing, correct?
Correct. So TCM is today's Christian music, and it's the Christian charts across Australia. So it records the airplay of different songs that are being played across Australia, a few in New Zealand, but basically a guy over there just collates them and produces like a top 30 every week. And then at the end of the year, he goes through and does like a top 100 songs in a top 50 artists for that particular year based on the airplay records.
What's your highest charting song?
My highest charting was a song called Hold the Stars, and I think that got up to like 16 or something like that. But my Christmas song, Oh Holy Night, made it to number 11, so that was kind of fun. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
so that's
So
pretty
I
fun.
I was going to mention another little Australian connection here, and you probably have heard this before, but I hear a little bit of Rebecca St. James in what you do. Has anyone ever told you that before? Or is this the first time?
Every now and then you get the Rebecca little
Comparison.
similarity in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
mean,
totally cool because when I was in the 90s, I went to Rebecca's concert as part of my school uh, part of my music evaluation was we had to go and review a couple of concerts for the year, and Rebecca St. James was one that I went along to and wrote a review and got to meet her, and that was pretty fun. So,
Was she nice? Was she a nice person?
oh, absolutely, yeah, very down to earth and very willing to have conversation and just be real with people. So that was really cool.
Did you tell her, hey, someday I want your job. I just want to, do what you're doing?
I did not, but actually, it was around. It was very close to the time she came out, like in the '90s, and then came out again in the early 2000s. And I just released my first CD, Faith Child,
Yeah.
and so a couple of people from the radio station that were friends of mine were there, and they're like, "Oh, you've got to meet each other." So I have this photo where I look super awkward. I'm kind of like. Like, I'm meeting Rebecca St. James. Um, so I have this super awkward photo of us together just after releasing my first CD. So it was kind of fun.
And I didn't even know that there was this connection there. I just, I heard it a little bit in the music, but you have a very eclectic group of songs. I mean, some of your songs are very acoustic and very organic, and others, I was listening to Fly when, full disclosure, when you buzzed in here, and I had it cranked up, and you could do, I mean, I could do my coffee cup workout, like to the rhythm
Yeah,
of that. I mean, just kidding. I had a Bible over here the other day, and I was doing like curls because it was a big Bible,
there you go.
showing off my spiritual acumen, right? But no, I mean, I love the production value, and you've worked with a lot of different producers. It says here, like one from who worked with Third Day and Reliant K. Those are two of
Mhm.
my favorite bands from the old days, and also the Rolling Stones. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, the Stones. I mean, there's this guy, was it George Tutko from the Rolling Stones, helped produce
yeah,
one of your albums, right?
he did. Yeah, my first album recorded over here in the US. He was helping with the engineering of it, so that was kind of fun. Kind of yeah,
Were
a
you were
pinch
you
yourself kind of moment of
were you
that's
moving
cool.
like Jagger after that? Did you have a lot of strange things happen to you? No, I'm just kidding.
No, no,
Sorry.
I definitely don't have those moves at all.
It's okay. I don't think any of us do except for Mick, and that
There
I
you go.
think it should just stay with him. All right. It's just a
Yeah.
suggestion for everybody. Um, so you've come out with an album fairly recently, correct? Tell us about that and any of the, just the like the ideas that are in there and what you wanted to convey about it.
Yeah, so my last CD that I released was called From the Bathroom Floor. I've got another one coming out in a couple of weeks that's called The Collection. But From the Bathroom Floor was kind of one of my most vulnerable CDs.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a collection of songs that um, came about in like a really hard place for me.
Yeah. Yep.
And From the Bathroom Floor is kind of, I guess, the perfect way to summarize it because, we all have those days where we feel like the wind is knocked out of us and,
Hmm.
we're just laying out on the bathroom floor because we ain't got nothing left,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and so, the CD is, and I call it CD because I'm old school,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
like,
No. Go
the
ahead.
um the album is about the things that I learned. Like there's a song on there called 54321,
Hmm.
which is actually a grounding technique. And so I've kind of put it into a song of it's the five things that you can see, four that you can feel, three you can see, two you can smell, and one you can taste, or something like that. So I kind of got a little creative and put this theory of a grounding technique into a song. Um, and just it's about being present in the moment and realizing that God has everything in control, and that we can kind of just take a breath and be okay and rest and know that we're going to be okay, because He does have everything in control, even in those moments where everything is chaotic or everything does not seem in control. Um, And so, it's kind of my journey through that time. And one of the really big things that I wanted to portray to people is, even in the darkest moments, even in the places where we don't feel that we can take another step, or we just have no idea what to do next, even in those valleys, the promise is that we're never alone, and that even on the bathroom floor, God is with us.
Mm.
And so that's kind of the idea and the concept of the CD. And just there's songs in there just to remind us to, just to lean in to the love of God, just to let go and to fully trust that he loves us. He knows what we need. And even if he cares for the lilies of the field, and clothes them and feeds the birds every day,
Hmm.
how much more is he going to care for us? And so it's just really a reminder of the promise of Emmanuel, that whatever we're going through, God is with us, even on the bathroom floor, right?
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. So
and so,
you're definitely not a lightweight songwriter. I mean, it seems like you really have a gift, and your focus obviously is the presence of God, the love of God, and a lot of Christian music, not all of it, but a lot of Christian music today is kind of right on the edge where you can't kind of tell what it is. And I don't know if that's on purpose to kind of hook people, or if it's the opposite, like, hey, we want to kind of blend in. There's two philosophies. Like you could you could put something out there and it'll sound a lot like everything else, and it might have a couple of words here or there, and it might start you thinking, okay, what's this is a little different, what's this about? And then there's the other way of doing this, is like, I'm just throwing it all out there and I'm going to let people know, hey, God is real, and I believe. So tell us about your faith. Like, when did you become a Christian? Was this something that happened when you were really young, or were you a little bit older? And then obviously you decided to get into music and to do a, like, this is a full ministry here. This isn't an easy thing to decide to do. God must have had a little bit of a call on your life.
yeah, so my family and I, so my mom, dad, and sister, we went to the Salvation Army Church when I was growing up. So my mom was like about a fourth or fifth generation in the Salvation Army, and so my
Wow.
sister and I joke that we're like the sixth generation in the Salvos. And so, we had good Christian teaching when we were growing up. But life is not always straight lines and everything. And at the age of about 15, I kind of was questioning quite a few things that were happening in my life and just around me, and those sorts of things, and asking that question of, okay, God, where are you in these times? Like the information and the teachings that I had when I was growing up just didn't seem to be kind of cutting where I was at and what I was going through. And so I was asking like a lot of questions. And at this time, we moved from um, somewhere that was down south of Australia, a little bit further north. And so I'd left all my friends behind, and we were kind of in a place where we were starting again. And at that point, I was like, okay, God, I'm kind of done with this religion thing. I'm kind of done with um, trying to seek out like the Christian group, or seek out um, the church groups at school, or those sorts of things. Like I'm kind of done doing that. And so my challenge back to God, sometimes we have these moments where we think we're in control of the situation, right? And so I was like, okay, God, if you really love me, if you really want me, I am not going about trying to find the Christian group. But if you really love me, if you really are who I've grown up with, if you really are who you say you are, put people in my life that will show me the truth of who you are, who will help me to understand you better, because I'm not seeking that out. But if you want me, go ahead,
Mm.
like it was like
Yeah.
that cheeky kind of challenge back. And God did just that, right? The people that were put in my life at that time were just the most real, down to earth people. And I went to a church with them. They took me along to the youth group that they went to, and I learned about grace, and I learned about the fact that when Jesus said, "It is finished," that's what it meant. Like everything is finished, sin and striving and all of those sorts of things. I started to understand more deeply um, the depth of what happened on the cross. And um, and then I went to a Rebecca St. James concert. um, and at this concert, she was telling a story about a young orphaned girl, um, who there were some people that were going to the orphanage to adopt someone, and they saw this young girl, and her clothes were tattered, her hair was messy, she had lice. It was just this picture of someone who is in like a really rough place. And um, and Rebecca went on to tell this story of how this family was just like, we want you, right?
Hmm.
You are the one that we want to adopt. We are the one that we want to include in our lives. And it was as if in that moment, God was saying to me, Vanessa, this is how I see you, right? I love you and I want you and I adopt you into my family, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter how tatty or torn you are or how broken you feel. I love you and I want you. And that was a really yeah, a really pivotal time in my life. Like those two things together, just learning about grace and just that the depth of love that God has for us, even when we feel that we're broken and have nothing to give. Just coming to that understanding of the depth of his love for us. Was really, yeah, a really changing moment. And growing up in the Salvation Army, music was around us all the time because they have their brass
Hmm.
bands and they have their choirs and those sorts of things. And so my sister and I, we were always kind of doing music things. But around the age of 15, and into my later teens is when I really started writing my own stuff. And a lot of it was around, wrestling through different different things that I was seeing in the world, and how I was reconciling that to who God was, or those pivotal moments in my life where God was revealing something to me. And just music became a way of, I guess, in one sense, it was a cathartic thing for me of like, sometimes people will journal things out. Music for me was a way of expressing where I was at, and that wrestling of, okay, this is where I'm at, but I believe that this is the truth of who you are. I believe that you call me loved. I believe that you are going to provide what I need. Um, so it was some of that wrestling. But also, there were times when I would write a song for a friend who was going through a really hard time to just try and encourage them as well. And so, um, yeah, music just really um, has always been a part of my life. But I guess it's just joining in that song, and taking that step of writing it out, more towards my later years, and I
Hmm.
guess today, still
So.
still doing that as well. Yeah.
That's a really great testimony, and it shows like your heart, and it just kind of evolved very organically, which I love. I love that. Now, what instruments do you play? I'm assuming I'm pretty sure you play keyboards. Is that your primary instrument, or there are other things that you do?
Yeah, no, piano is my main jam.
Main
um,
jam, yeah.
so yeah, so I play piano. Um, Sometimes I can play a few chords on guitar. There are a few pictures of me where I've attempted to play some songs on guitar. But my it's probably about three or four chords that I can play. So if you give me like a two chord song, I can probably get away with it. But
Mm, all
more than
right.
that, I struggle. So piano and singing is definitely more my comfort zone.
So when you go out on tour, which by the way we'll talk about that because you're currently out on the road from what I see on your website and what the fact that you're in Kentucky right now. Do you just is it just you and a piano or how does that work?
Yeah, so here in the US, it's just me and the piano, and I have a little stomp box, so there's a little bit of drumming in there as well.
Hmm.
Um, but back home, when I tour, I have a few friends that will play with me, which is great fun. So, touring just depends on where I am and who's around and who's available and that sort of thing. But for this one, it's a bit more stripped back, just me and the pianos. So raw and real, right?
Right, right. Well, I think people will appreciate that. I mean, if you're doing mainly like coffee house or smaller venues, I think that that's going to translate well to your audience. And I'm assuming you do some talking in between the songs or every so often to convey the message of hope that it seems like you've really latched onto, which is a great thing to hear about and to listen to in person. So when's your next concert? I know I saw your schedule and you're actually going to be at a place. See, I live in Florida now, but I used to live in Massachusetts. But I saw you going to this coffee house in Millbury where I used to
Yes.
hang out. Like, when,
Nice.
the 20-year ago thing that you were talking about there? That was
Yep.
me at the cafe at the mill, which is
Oh, nice.
you're gonna love that place because the people they're very energetic. Okay, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
They're very boisterous. So, and they're very appreciative. And it's one of the only. It's sad to see this, but it's one of the only coffee houses in that region of. I mean, you can go see Christian artists at larger venues, but um, it's cool that you're going there. Let's just put it that way. It's really cool that there's still a remnant that still wants to see and hear that. And so,
Yeah.
what's you're out in Kentucky, but what is your next gig in Kentucky, or where are you going from there?
No, so I've got some back-to-backs in Ohio. So
Ah,
Saturday I'll play in Toledo, Ohio. Then Sunday I'm in Wilmington. Monday I'm in Cincinnati, and then Tuesday I've got another gig in Cincinnati, and then Wednesday I play in Pennsylvania,
all right,
in Harrisburg. So kind of stretching my way up to Millbury, Massachusetts.
nice.
So
How do
that'll be
you?
fun.
Is it a love offering, or how do they go about? Because I'm assuming the traveling and stuff costs money, and I'm assuming you have to stay at hotels or maybe someone is nice enough to offer you a room or whatever. But is are you charged for ticket prices or how does it work?
So most of the events are free. So sometimes if I'm playing music for a conference or something like that, usually conferences have like fees attached to them because they're like a few days and they've got guest speakers and that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
But most of the time when I'm playing, yeah, it's a free event and just people have the opportunity if they want to participate. There is love offerings that are taken up most of the time. But yeah, try to keep costs down as much as possible. So a lot of the time I'm uh, hosted by someone, which gives me the chance to get to know people and get to know the area. Sometimes I'm put up in a hotel, which is also fine. It just depends on where I'm playing, um, and what the capacity of the place is that's kind of hosting the event, to be able to like either hotel or hosting whatever there is, because I really one of the things that I really wanted to make sure I was doing is to keep keep my costs low. Obviously, there are some expenses when you travel.
Sure.
Um, but I wanted to be someone who was going to be willing to go to play for people where there were smaller numbers as well as bigger numbers
Yeah.
of attendees. So I didn't want the number of people to be like a limit for someone coming to have me play and to share about the promise of Emmanuel and the love of God,
That's awesome.
that's
Yeah.
like something that we all need to hear. So
Hmm.
I want to be flexible to do that. So yeah, like every gig is its own is its own thing and looks different to the last one because sometimes we'll all go out to eat together afterwards or sometimes it'll just be okay, thanks for having me, we'll
See you
we'll
later.
see you next time sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
every gig is
Depends. Yeah.
different. And um but it's a chance to kind of get to know people and to just share and be real with people. So I enjoy doing it very much.
Well, see, what I was gonna do for you, Vanessa, is I was gonna send all your info to Lauren Daigle and see if maybe she needed somebody to open up for her in her
There you
next
go.
tour or whatever. I mean, because I think you and her would probably get along well, and I think people need to hear you. I think the music is terrific, and you're genuine, and I think her audience would probably appreciate that, as would any audience for that matter. So I'll try to do what I can. Maybe, there are a couple of other little tours going on. Maybe Toby Mac needs somebody to help him open
There
up a
you
few
go, right?
shows and, at least get you on the bill. I saw my son just celebrated his 11th birthday last month, and we took him to see it was Toby Mac and like four other groups. Kane was there, and he was just blown away with all
Nice.
this music. And I'm looking at that going, well, there's definitely a place for Vanessa here. Vanessa could open up for the opening up part. You know what I mean? We
There
could
you
get
go.
you
Uh-huh.
we could get you out in the, where everybody comes in. You could be there on your piano, and I was going to do the guitar thing, but it's the piano. And I'm a natural air guitarist. That's what I do.
There you
Um
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you've certainly got a lot of talent, and I hope that God gets you a few more ears and hearts to decipher what this amazing message of grace and hope is all about. Which I love the fact that you're out there and you're willing to do what God is telling you to do. And you're fully depending on God. Hey, God, I don't know how I'm going to get to Massachusetts or who's going to whatever, but you're just trusting that there's going to be a way. And I'm sure some of this is worked out, but it also probably takes a little bit of faith to do it as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a cool story about that if you
Yeah,
want to
well,
hear it.
go ahead. Yeah, I mean, we're really, I mean, we're not time constrained. I know the audience is probably sitting there going, "Okay, she's really talented. She's on tour. She sings really well. She's, maybe Rebecca St. James-ish a little bit, but maybe different." I would say your voice, and no, this is nothing against Rebecca, right? Because we used to call her Becky J when I was on the
Oh, there
radio.
you
We
go.
had a nickname for
Yeah.
her. We call her Becky J. Um,
Nice.
she's kind of an acquired thing. Like, in other words, if you like her, you really like her. But in those
Hmm.
days, she was a little different. Her voice has a certain quality to it. I would say yours is a little more, I don't know, like hers is like this, and yours is a little more like, I would say you're a little more soothing to me. That's just me.
Oh,
That's just me.
yeah,
All right.
right.
All right. So anyway, let's hear your story. Enough about me, because there's not really much here. But what's the story? I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. So you were saying about how like traveling, there's a lot of faith involved in that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess it's also a really like being on this visa and being only able to work as a musician over here has really been a stretching time for me. So I used to work before I moved over to the States. I worked as a social worker, and so every 2 weeks your paycheck would go in and all of those sorts of things. But over here, like my life has been completely flipped upside down, right? And so it is. dependent on if I travel to a gig, like what I earn through being at that gig. And so when I was first starting out, I was here for about 6 months, and I was going up to visit some friends in Oregon, and um, I knew that I didn't have a couple of gigs for a few weeks, and so my parents had just sent me some money to kind of tie me over to get to the next place, and somehow I still ran out of money. So like in Oregon, I was 2 days away from like getting on the road to get to my next gig, and I was looking at my bank, and I'm just like, I don't have money to get to my next gig.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, and I'm like, I can't ask my parents for money. I just I didn't know what I was going to do, and so I was like, I was having a good old sob um,
Yeah.
on the floor at my friend's house, and hadn't told them anything about it, but um, I was just in this place of, okay, so what, how am I going to do it? What am I going to do? I need to get, 40, $60 to fill my tank up, because it was only like a
Hmm.
one tank of gas kind of drive. But
Yep.
even still, like $40 is $40, right? How do you
Hmm.
find $40 if you don't have it? And
Yep.
then I got this text message from a friend. I had just done a road trip up the East Coast, and I got a text message from her saying, did you find something in your suitcase? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. Like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And so we had done this road trip. I got back to Mississippi, which is where I live. I'd unpacked all of my suitcase, done my washing, repacked it, drove up to Oregon, and had not noticed that she had slipped like $100 into my suitcase pocket.
Wow.
And so without knowing any of this, without orchestrating any of it, I'm literally sitting there going, how am I going to get to this gig? And I get this text from my friend going, have you checked your case? And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing in it. And then she's like, you might want to check again, like maybe in this place. And I'm just like, I found it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that's the faithfulness of God to kind of
Hmm.
provide for us, to get to where we need to get to. And from there, it was like every time that I was feeling strapped, like I had another time where my health insurance payment was due, and I had a gig the day before, and I'm like, well, this is very unrealistic that this is going to actually that I'm going to be able to make my payment. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
And at that gig, I managed to earn the exact amount that I needed to pay my health insurance bill.
Wow.
And so, this time of being over here on this visa has really been like a learning and stretching time of just trusting that God is going to provide what I need to be able to um, make it, or do the next thing that's in front of me. It's really been like a day by day, moment by moment thing.
Hmm.
But in those times where I've just gone, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. There's been this beautiful moment of provision, whether it was through a friend, or um, through a gig that I didn't believe it was
Right.
gonna be able to get me what I needed. But God is faithful, and does provide for us. And I think I've learned that the most these last 2 years than I ever have before.
So
So yeah, it's kind of cool.
are you staying in the States?
Yeah, so I have a visa to live here until September of this year. So I'm on tour, but living over here at the moment as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, that was a great story of God's faithfulness and trusting. And when things don't look like they're going to work out and you're trying to serve God and do the right thing. I love that story. That was such a good story. You have a website because I've been on
Hmm.
it. Vanessa
Hmm.
Kersting, Kersting.com.
Excellent.
And you have merch, okay? And the people who watch my channel, they love merch. So
Nice.
I would say to all of those people to help Vanessa out as she crisscrosses the United States, spreading the good news of the gospel that and the grace of God, which she's discovered an even greater way in recent years. I would definitely check out her merch store. She's got some cool stuff. I was looking at some T-shirts, they're very stylish, and a whole bunch of CDs, as you would say, because you're old
Mhm.
school like me.
That's
Uh,
it.
Not these silly MP3s or these downloaded tracks or whatever. We're talking about a whole plethora of great music, a whole bunch of, and apparently a couple that probably aren't even maybe there from the early days. I'm not sure. Do
Mhm.
you have all of your music available from the very beginning, or
I think so. I think
yeah?
they're all available on the website. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm counting, I think, 8 of them here. And
Yeah.
yeah, and also I was noticing the artwork on these covers. Who's responsible for that? Because it looks very homemade. It starts with this album called Where the Rubber Meets the Road, and
Hmm.
then it's right up until From the Bathroom Floor.
Yeah.
Is that you doing that, or who's responsible for that?
No, if I was doing the artwork, I would probably be a bunch of stick figures. But my so in when we lived in Perth, we had some people live with us for about 6 months before they had moved interstate. And she now lives in the UK and is an artist. And
Mhm.
so she has done from Where the Rubber Meets the Road, she has done all of my album covers. She didn't do Fly, but all of the album covers and most of the single covers since that time. So I've been so excited to be able to have her do the art and to be able to kind of promote what she does because she's a phenomenal artist. That's just like a little glimpse. My covers are just a little glimpse of what she does. But yeah, she's very talented. Her name is Liesl Yvette Wilson. So make sure to look her up because she's got some really cool stuff out there.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, Vanessa, I want to thank you for our interview here, our little chat, as I like to call them, and we wish you God's best on the road as you meet all these people and spread the good news. Would you anything else that you want to add or say to my vast audience of tens of tens?
No, thank you for having me. It's been great to chat, and hopefully, we'll see some of you on the road sometime this year.
All right, amen. Vanessa Kersting on the road and great music and great message. God bless you, and thanks for being here, Vanessa.
Thanks for having me.